Hard to watch that. Indiana Congresswoman Susan Brooks is a Republican and a member of the House Homeland Security Committee, and thanks so much for being with us. I'll get to that crazy rant in just a moment. But look, as David was pointing out in his story, the mother was also on a federal terrorism database 18 months before the attack. She reportedly became more militant in her Muslim faith. Does it make sense to you for the feds to investigate whether she influenced or radicalized her sons? And if they have evidence of it, well, that would constitute a conspiracy. So what do you think?
Absolutely, Greg. I do believe that the authorities should be looking at not only the mother, but at many people who had contact with Tamerlan. That's really after 9/11. That's what was intended, was that we would have investigations that would look into financial ties to people, that would look into what the religious ties that these young men had and what radicalized them. We don't know the answers to that, but we know that after Tamerlan returned from Russia, he posted a lot of, he looked at YouTube videos, he posted a lot of social media that indicated that he had been radicalized. He
had jihadist videotapes, jihadist music on his webpage. But look, much has been written, of course, in the last 10 years by terrorism experts about the mentality of jihadists. They often exhibit irrationality and hostility. You know, were both of those in full view this week when the mother, and we just played a clip of it in front of TV cameras, went off on this angry, aberrant rant that seemed irrational. She seemed to, in fact, question whether the attacks even took place.
Well, and I have seen that viewing of her, and it certainly is something that indicates that she is not rational in her, in her communications with the media and with people. She was apparently, as we have learned, and we have many questions about this, she was apparently put on a watch list as someone that we, as the government, should be watching, as Tamerlan was. And we need to make sure that we connect those dots, that our federal agencies, DHS, FBI, CIA. I'm a former U.S. attorney, and that's what the Joint Terrorism Task Forces were designed to do, was to take in all of the incredible information and try and connect the dots.
In just the last couple of weeks, there have been 10 attacks in 10 countries on 4 continents, murdering 300 to 400 people. So, when you hear the president say, Al-Qaeda's on the run, terrorism is on the downturn, does that belie the facts?
Well, certainly this horrific terrorist attack, I think, shows that we have to remain vigilant. Our law enforcement, especially the JTTFs, the fusion centers, CIA, FBI, working with DHS, we have to make sure those dots are connected. We are going to be having hearings in early May at the Homeland Security Committee to ask those questions. We do not know if those dots were connected. And it's still an incredibly dangerous world there.
The Russian task force presented to the U.S. counterterrorism group evidence 9 months before the attack that said this guy is a jihadist. It was shared with one individual at the U.S. and Customs Protection assigned to the Boston Joint Terrorism Force. He shared it with nobody else. Congresswoman, how can that be?
Well, those are questions that we certainly intend to ask on the Homeland Security Committee. And the Customs and Border Protection, along with FBI and other agencies and CIA, are designed to work together in these joint terrorism task forces. And so we have many questions. We don't know what happened yet. That's why we want to get to the bottom of it, asking Secretary Napolitano, Director Mueller, and others questions about what happened here and how we didn't follow up with that Russian information. We have to follow leads, but there are many, many leads that these task forces receive. The question is, how are we handling those leads, and what kind of audits are we doing from those leads?
Secretary Napolitano, as you just stated, who still maintains, as does the Obama administration, that, for example, the Fort Hood shooting was a workplace act of violence, not an act of terrorism. They're very quick to talk about lone wolves and self-radicalized people. Bin Laden's dead, GM's alive. Is there a mentality here that radical Islam is downplayed and dismissed, leading to a sense of complacency, perhaps, within the government?
Well, I certainly think that because it had been so long since 9/11, everyone would like to be more comfortable that terrorism is not out there and that we don't have radical jihadists. But we absolutely do around the world. And so we have to remain vigilant. We have to make sure that citizens are working closely with law enforcement and that our agencies are talking and sharing and doing everything we can to make sure that we are finding the terrorists in our midst and abroad. And we can't ignore, and we have to cooperate fully and with specifically law enforcement agencies around the globe as well. This is a global network of terror, but we need to ensure we find those here in our midst, and we meet it in this one.
Representative Susan Brooks on the Homeland Security Committee, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so very much.
And now this is